All right, welcome to Nyobicomics. It's LP, writer and creator of the comic book Nyobi, currently being published through Antarctic Press. And today, excuse me, today we are doing another hot take video where I peruse the Twitterverse, the Twitterverse. I find these comic book hot takes and I present them. Today's hot take comes from Stokes, the writer. Let's take a look. Question for comic book creators. Would you rather be successful through a big publisher like Image, Boom, Marvel, or be successful entirely independent? First of all, here's part of the question that really bothers me is why don't you have DC in there? Like, how does Boom become a bigger publisher than DC? Is that just an oversight, or do you really think Boom is huge? I mean, they're big, don't get me wrong, but they're not DC Warner Brothers big by any stretch of the means, you know. And he says the why not both mafia hasn't shown up. Thank God. You got a problem with me? You think I'm funny like a clown? I am part of the both mafia. Shocking, right? And my publisher is not even on his list, and it should be. Antarctic Press should be listed there. Now, he's going to say, well, they're not a big publisher. And they're not. Well, see, but that's where I disagree. They're not as big as Image or Marvel or DC, but Antarctic Press has been around longer than, say, an Image or a Boom Studios. Antarctic Press has been around for 38 plus years, ladies and gentlemen. And they are a great home to do just that, to go both ways. I like to go both ways. Yeah, I like to swing, right? I like to do my crowdfunding, make my initial moolah, get my books out to the initial backers, and then take that already paid for work and put it on comic book shelves worldwide, which is exactly what I've done now. Count them 6 times. And not only have I done it, but my friends have done it as well. So let's go on and see what the public is saying. He's got 49 comments here. We're not going to read all 49, but we will read a few of them. Let's see here. Eric says, oh God, if I could find success without having to work out the logistics of printing and distribution, if my job could be just writing full time plus a little promotion, that is the dream. Publishers, call me. Eric, my friend. Actually, I don't know you at all. But my would-be friend, let me explain how this works. They're not calling you, okay? If you want to be known by publishers, you need to call them. And I don't literally mean pick up the phone and call them, though I'm sure in some cases one could. I mean, you need to start putting together submission packages, digital submission packages, that you can send via email that would showcase your work to said publishers. Stokes comes back in. I'm definitely rocking with the publishers too. This shit is exhausting. What do you think is going to happen if you just give your work to a publisher and expect them to do all the heavy lifting? I just given this speech last night on my live broadcast, where if you are with a publisher, do not expect the publisher to promote your stuff. Right? You need to promote the publisher just as bad as you need that publisher to promote you. You have to make people aware that you're even with said publisher to begin with. And, some of the heavy lifting needs to be done by the publisher, where this publisher needs to say, yeah, you're with us. And we're proud you're with us. And we're going to showcase that you're with us. There's a reason why I talk about Antarctic Press almost every chance I get. Because I am promoting them. Because that helps me. And that helps everyone else who's on the team. Frank Martin, I know Frank Martin. We've talked to Frank before. He says this is too broad of a question. You would have to specify what success means, as it's different to everyone. And of course, Stokes with his passive-aggressive, I don't know how anyone else managed to answer if it's too broad. Why not both? Because both paths are completely different. Where's the button? We know the button, guys. We've heard the button. Let's hear the button. Incorrect. They're not entirely different. In fact, one can definitely coincide with the other. It's only different if the publisher you're with does not allow you to retain your rights, and some don't. Some of them will take those rights away for X amount of years. whatever it says on the contract. Some publishers, however, like an Antarctic Press, never take your rights away. You're allowed to publish with them, and this is the great part, right? And crowdfund your book without any worries, complications, or problems whatsoever. So you do get the best of both worlds. It's just the way it is. Let's see. Pick one. It's like pick me, girl. We gotta pick one. Let's see here. Vault Kobold says, it wouldn't matter to me, but considering how inflexible I am concerning my creations, a big publisher would not tolerate me. J.K. Rowling got the last big publisher hands-off deal, in my opinion. This is true depending on, again, the publisher, right? If you're with Marvel, first of all, if you're with Marvel, you're not bringing your creator-owned stuff over there. You're doing their stuff. They hire you. You are writing, X book for Marvel with X editors sort of guiding the way. You get no real say. Same thing with DC. If you're with Image, well, the Image is, we kind of built ourselves on doing it your own way. So, they'll guide you. They'll certainly give you input, but they'll never force anything upon you. With Antarctic Press, it's the same sort of thing. If you ask someone, within the company, or someone who is very involved in the company, say someone like myself now, will certainly let you know what our input is, but by no means is anyone obligated to listen to it or abide by it whatsoever. That's sort of the beautiful thing about being your own boss. Wolfsbane's Comics says, indie all day. There's more creative freedom. You get to see what works for your brand, opposed to conforming to someone else's work or keeping in line with the accomplishments for said creators. Chris Doodles says, the first choice is usually carried over to the second choice, but I'll go with the second. I'd feel more fulfilled. What he's trying to say here is that there's more street cred when someone else validates your work. That could be true. Charlie here says, independent. The only value another publisher gives to me, potential saturation, I lose on so many other variables, profit, IP, mobility, etc. I already do all the production work. Why pay me when I'm already in the game? Well, why pay to play when I'm already in the game? See, that's not sort of how it works. Again, you guys don't know how the Antarctic Press deal works. If you know how it works, this point would be mute, right? Because you're not losing out on profit. You're gaining profit. You're not losing out on, your IP getting out there. You're gaining eyeballs. Chris Cantrell says, indie all the way. There's very little any upsides. Giving up profits to major publishers in this day and age. You're already going to get your money from being indie. What we do at Antarctic is we just give you another shot at putting that work out on the shelf. It's what we call bonus money, icing on the cake, if you will. Brandon Knight says, 100% indie. But the line between that being published by Image is thin. The only difference being the pitching of the project and having Image branding on your book in exchange for receiving a spot in previews and then handling shipping and other logistics. Again, going back to the AP thing, I love the AP branding on my book. I absolutely loved it. And had I prepared a little bit earlier for this video, I would show you a couple of slides of said branding. That AP logo means just as much to me as the Image I means for Todd McFarlane. Okay, flat out. I'm proud of that logo. Having, read Antarctic Press since the early 90s, I am thrilled to be part of what I would call a legacy. And I don't use that word lightly. Legacy in comics. Okay, so it's amazing to me, now Antarctic could be considered indie, and Stokes will respond with, I said big publishers. Well, I consider Antarctic, after being around for 38 years, have not folded when we've seen so many others do, a fairly major publisher in the world of comic books. Eric says, independent, because either way I'm going to have to moonlight to put a roof over my head, so I might as well go with the path that lets me own what I make. We see Marvel kill franchises they don't 100% own outright, like the Malibu universe. Yeah, well, again, none of you guys, and I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, none of you guys are getting with Marvel, okay? And if you did, you probably hate working for them. Maddock, if you own your IP and your hard work translates directly into sales with potential gross of $1 million or more, I cannot understand why you would ever want to sell your soul to a major publisher. Jake Allen says, independent 100% early on. I want to break into mainstream to build an audience like the Image guys, but it never happened. I wish to focus on independent work sooner. I wish I had focused on independent work sooner. Again, if we're talking strictly the three that he mentioned, right? Marvel, Boom, Image, forget it, pack up, you're done. Not to say that it's impossible, but it is to say it's very unlikely. Image and Marvel tend to hire no names in the industry. And by no names, I'm talking about people who have a lot more cred than anyone that's sort of chiming here on this thread. And that's not to insult them. That's just the truth. And, you know, I put myself in that list as well, right? I'm not Marvel or Image material. Probably not yet. I'd like to be, at least in form of quality. Not that I think Marvel has much quality anymore, though. But I digress. With the Antarctic Press, we do have a shot at competing with anything else that's on that shelf. I live in Buckfuck Nowhere, Canada. It's on the map. Look it up. And in Buckfuck Nowhere, Canada, we have a comic book shop, a fairly large comic book shop. And guess what they carry in Canada, in East Coast Canada? Antarctic Press, right? So imagine if you were with us and you're down in the States, and next thing you know, your book is being picked up by a random stranger in a comic book shop in Canada in a completely different country. How fucking cool is that, right? So I cannot wait to post my response to this video on this thread, because everyone is pretty much saying the same thing. They're not considering the Antarctic Press option here in any of this. Now I get it. Being independent's awesome. You control it. You get the money. Da 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 da. This is where the both comes into play. This is where the both comes into play. Because I can still do what I want. I still get all the money from my Kickstarters. No one has got the reins of my IP. In fact, being with Antarctic Press has just opened up the doors to so much. So much. And if you watch here's a cheap shill. If you watch my live streams, you would know that. You would see that we quite often have some fairly known names in the comic book industry. Tom Hutchinson, John Stintsman, Ben Dunn, the founder of Antarctic. These guys come on and we just, we talk about this type of stuff nonstop, ad nauseum. Let's see here. Jeremy says independent, but I like the right draw for both of the others that people like if given a chance. Sure. I mean, if the Marvel gods came down and said, LP, we want you to write a 4-issue Magic miniseries, my first question would be, how restrictive are you going to be with me on this? If I can have free reign, let the blood rain. Great, let's do it. You can pay me. I can put my mark on Marvel and move on. But if it's like, well, here's a list of rules and this is how we're going to micromanage you and it's going to make you want to pull out the remaining hair you have left, then probably not, Francisco here says, I think there's a personal fulfillment thing that's better about being successful independent, but getting to work on some of my favorite characters as a kid, surprisingly from the big two, would be a dream come true. Sure, I mean, who wouldn't want to have their shot at Spider-Man or the X-Men or something like that, right? Or Batman. D here says, I'd much rather make it on my own stuff. So indie for me. That said, I don't consider Image the same greedy corporate tier as Marvel and DC, so I actually wouldn't mind publishing through them. Very hard to get an Image. We had Eric Larson on this show twice. I suggest you go back in the archives and you watch those interviews where we go over how tough it is to get an Image and what it is that they're actually looking for. If you're doing superhero books right now, forget about Image. They're not interested. File 13, and this will be the last one we'll read, says, independent, but with my own money. I can't see myself asking for money when the cost should be all on the creator. There's also a ton of profit loss from the campaign route. That being said, if you don't have the funds, find a big publisher, no money involved, just your work. Yeah, that's wrong. And I'll tell you why. I can't see myself asking for money. The minute you put your product on the shelf, whether it's through a publisher or independent, you are now asking for money. You are asking money to say, hey, here is money. Here is what I'm offering for said money. It doesn't matter if it's on crowdfunding or not. See, that's sort of that boggles my mind, because they're thinking it's like a GoFundMe, right? Where a Kickstarter is almost like, and I hate to say it, but it's true, like a pre-order website. You are offering your product, different tiers for the different things you can get, and people give you money. You are making sales. That's how it works. They talk about profit loss from the campaign, or a ton of profit loss. It's not that big, man. You're talking, what, 5 to 7%, maybe 8%, depending on who you're campaigning with. And they have built-in eyeballs and built-in an audience, like Kickstarter. Go try setting up your own site and see if you can compete with the numbers that you would have had on Kickstarter. I guarantee you can't. And he's also saying doing it with his own money. Okay, you know how much it takes to make the average indie comic book? Anywhere from, I would say, $4,000 to $7,000, right? That's assuming that you're paying like, $150, $200 for pages. You have a budget for covers. You're taking into account your lettering and any other little jobs that need to be done. $4,000 to $7,000. You could probably do it a little bit cheaper, but it will kind of be like shit, So I think that's it. You know what I'm saying? There are other options. It doesn't have to be this cut and dry. Antarctic Press is there. We're looking for creators who have done stories, that have a body of work that they can show. Submit and see what can happen. See if your dreams of doing both, being completely independent, but yet still having the option, the ability to have your book on the shelves, would be absolutely fantastic. This is LP for Nyobicomics. Stay tuned for Nyobi Penguina, the Kickstarter, coming in about 2 to 3 weeks from now. Peace.